All right, y'all, 3.5 systems of equations. All right, y'all, like I said, we're going to start with solving systems of equations with two variables. And I'll tell you another thing, you need as many equations as you do variables. So if you got two variables, you need two equations. When we solve three variables, we'll need three equations. Okay? All right, so the steps to solving with two variables. All right, so y'all, what we're going to do, we're going to eliminate a variable by adding the two equations together. So we're going to eliminate one of the variables. So eliminate one of the variables by adding the two equations together. Now, in order to get them to cancel each other out, it may be necessary to change one or both of the equations. So I can change an equation if I do the same operation to every part of that equation, the x, the y, and the number. Okay? So if you multiply to change a line or an equation, you got to multiply every part of that equation. Okay? So I'm going to eliminate one of the variables. Once I've done that, I will solve for the remaining variable. All right, once I solve for the remaining variable, I'm going to back substitute the known variable into one of the original equations and solve for the other variable. All right, so I'll solve for a variable. I'm going to back substitute, solve for the remaining variable. I'm going to write the answer as an ordered pair. So an ordered pair, we always put them in alphabetical order and in parentheses. So in MATLAB, you will have to use parentheses if MATLAB does not have the parentheses there already. All right. If needed, check your answers. And to check your answers in the original equations, plug in for your x, plug in for your y, and see that it equals what's on that other side. And y'all, here's the main thing you want to check first. The equations must be in the same order before elimination. So the very first thing I'm going to make sure is my X's are in a column, my Y's are in a column, and then my answers are in a column. Okay, each column has to have the same variable. Okay. All right, y'all, so let me let y'all catch up with that, and we're going to start solving our equations. So we'll do about 2 or 3 with 2 variables, and then, like I said, we'll step into the 3 variables. All right, y'all. So let's go with 1 like y'all's number 1. And these will say solve by elimination. All right, so the first equation, 3x plus 3y equals 18. 7x minus 3y equals a negative 28. So there's my 2 equations. Now, I'll sort of go through this one with you. But right off the bat, if I was to add these 2 equations, those y's would cancel each other out. A plus 3y and a negative 3y will give me 0y. So the first variable I'm going to eliminate is the y variable. And I don't have to change any of my rows to do that. I got a plus 3 and a negative 3. So let's add everything together. 3x's plus 7x's give me 10x. 3y, negative 3y, those cancel. So on my right side, I got 18 and a negative 28, which will give me a negative 10. So by adding those 2 together, we eliminated the y variable. All we have left is the x. So now we're going to solve for x. So I got 10x equals negative 10. I need to turn the 10x into a 1x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 10. So 10 divided by 10 gives me a positive 1x. Negative 10 divided by 10 gives me a negative 1. Alrighty. We know our first variable x equals negative 1. So now we're going to come up here and back substitute. So since I know what x is going to be, I can pick either of these 2 original equations and plug in for the x. So I'm going to have 3 times x, which is negative 1, plus 3y is going to equal 18. So see, since I know what the x is, I can multiply by the 3 and get me a negative 3 plus 3y equals 18. All righty, y'all. So let's get this 3y by itself. So we'll add 3 to both sides. So those will cancel. I bring down that 3y. 18 plus 3, 21. And our final step, solve for y. So my 3y equal 21. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So that gives me a 1y equal to a positive 7. So in MathRab, my answer has to be in parentheses. I put my x first, which is -1, and then my y, which is 7. All right, y'all. So I'm going to let y'all sort of help me on this one. So it's not going to be quite as easy to start as that one was. So let's see what we do with this. All right, y'all. Here we go. We got 3x plus 4y equals -11. I got 4x minus a y equals -2. As it stands, if I was to add them, 3 and 4 would give me 7x's. 4 and -1 would give me 3y. So right off the bat, I cannot cancel either variable. So we're going to have to change either one or both of these equations. I need a negative and a positive of the same variable. So y'all, let me show you this. If I tried to eliminate the x's, I would have to turn 3 and 4 into the same number, make one positive, make one negative. So if you change the 3 and 4, the smallest number you could turn both of them into would be a 12. Make one positive 12, one negative 12, and that would be the way to cancel the x's. But I can do the y a little bit easier because I got a 4y and a -y. If I just change this second equation by multiplying everybody by 4, I would have a 4y here and a -4y here. And I'd be able to cancel the y by just changing one row. So what we're going to do here, we're going to change the second equation by multiplying by 4. Okay, so you're going to come in and multiply all 3 by 4. Now, I didn't change the first equation, so the first equation stays the same. But we are changing the second equation. So 4 times 4 gives me 16x. 4 times a -y gives me a -4y. And then on the right side, 4 times -2 is a -8. All right, now, so let me say up here, I forgot to put it, but I'm eliminating the y. Now, we could have did the x's, but like I said, you would have to change both rows to get rid of the x's. Because I can't turn a 3 into a 4, and I can't turn a 4 into a 3, okay? Now, so eliminating the y right here, the y's will cancel. So 3 plus 16 gave me 19x. -11, -8 equal -19. So are y'all with me on that? Any questions about why I changed that or anything in that process? All right, y'all not seeing anything. So now let's solve for x. So I'll take my 19x, divide by 19. That's going to equal -19 divided by 19. So 19 divided by 19 gives me 1x. -19 divided by 19, -1. So we know what x is. So I can pick one of these two original equations and back substitute. So y'all, I'm just going to use that first one again. I got 3 times x, which is -1, plus 4y has to equal a -11. All right, so you plugged in. So the first thing is to multiply. 3 times -1 is -3, plus my 4y equals -11. Now we need to get the 4y by itself, so we'll add 3 to both sides. All right, so those 3's cancel. I got 4y equals a -8. And y'all look at that. All I got to do now is divide by 4 on each side to solve for that y. So 4y divided by 4 will equal my -8 divided by 4. So that's going to give me 1y equals -2. So for my answer in MATLAB, x was -1, y was -2. All right, y'all, any questions yet? All right, y'all good? All right. All right, then my camera back up. All right, y'all, so the next example, I'll do this one and then we'll get into the 3 variables, okay? So 4x minus 9y equals 10.5. Now, this one's decimals. It's the only problem where you got to worry about decimals. All the other answers will be positive and negative numbers. Okay? So this is the only one where you're going to deal with decimals. All right, then I got 7y minus 2x equals a -6.5. So, do you see what might be the first thing that I got to do to this problem? And we really need to do this before we pick a letter to eliminate. So what y'all think? Um, Now, y'all remember one thing. Y'all remember my instructions I wrote right here a while ago? Y'all look at this star right here. This star says the equations must be in the same order before elimination. Yeah, Caleb, that's perfect. We need the second equation. We got to correct the second equation. So we need to rearrange second equation. But then, Jahan, I think I'm going to do what you said because you must have been looking at them crossways, but I'll still do what you got up there probably. So y'all, the first equation comes down. So all we got to do is change the first two. So we get -2x plus 7y equals a -6.5. All right, but now I will do what you said, Jahan, because It looks like the x's are what we're going to eliminate. And since that's a 4 and that's a -2, we're going to multiply that second row by 2 like you said. And that'll eliminate that x. So that was good. You could see that at that angle they were in, okay? All right, so let's multiply this second row by 2. So y'all, the first row is not changing. 4x minus 9y equals 10.5. Distributing that 2, I get a -4x. Distributing that 2, I get 14y. And then distributing that 2, I get what? A -13. Y'all have a good job? Because the x's are gone. So let's see what we get. -9 and 14 leave me 5y. -13 and a 10.5 is a -2.5. So remember, when you're adding a negative and a positive, when you're adding, the larger number determines the sign of the answer. So over here, 14 and -9, positive number was larger, got a +5. Over here, the negative number's larger, so I got a negative answer. At that point, I'm going to solve for y. So 5y divided by 5 equals -2.5 divided by 5. So that's going to give us a 1y. And that's going to be a negative, well, I guess that'd be what? 0.5? So 0.5. And y'all, calculator, you can knock out that real quick on a calculator. -2.5 divided by 5. It'll spit that out quick, okay? All righty. Back substitute. Since I know y is a -0.5, I can use one of these original equations. I can use this one where I got it in different order. It don't matter. I'm just going to use that top one, I think. So I don't know what x is. So I got 4x minus 9 times y, which is a -0.5. That's going to equal 10.5. All right, y'all. So first, we got to multiply those two. So I'm going to bring down to 4x. Negative times a negative is going to make that a positive 4.5. That's going to equal 10.5. All right, so we want this 4x by itself. So minus 4.5 from both sides. So y'all look at that. The 4x will come down. The 4.5, -4.5 cancel on this side. All right, so let's see. 10.5 minus 4.5. So that's what, an even 6. And all right, y'all. Divide both sides by 4. Now, since MathLab is using decimals, we need to turn this 6 divided by 4 into a decimal. So y'all, if you turn 6 over 4 into a decimal, what are we getting? So 1.5, good job. All righty, y'all. So, parentheses, x is first, 1.5. Then my y, -0.5. All right, y'all. So we've done 3 by hand. I'm going to show you how to do one of these by calculator. So on this one, I'm going to show you how to use calculator to solve. All righty, so let's see what we're going to solve. 3x plus 2y equals 24. 2x plus 3y equals 26. All right, so on the calculator, I'm going to be using what we call a matrix. Okay, so I'll show you how to get into that. And in the matrix, we only put the numbers. That's why when we do the matrix, it's really important that they got to be in the same order. Because in the calculator, it thinks the first column is a variable, the second column is a variable, and then the last column will be your answers, okay? So y'all, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to share my TI-84. It'll be the same as your iPhone app and your Android apps. So here we go. I'm going to share the calculator. Now, y'all, on the left side, that little key history, it'll show you what buttons I'm pushing to get what I need. So first on the left side, in blue is matrix. So to get that matrix, you got to hit the second button and then the X -1. That's going to bring up A, B, C, D. That's just if you want to make a lot of different matrices. I always use one and I just change it every time. Now to put in our matrix, we arrow right and hit edit. So that little key press history is showing that I went 2 spaces right on edit and I'm going to hit enter. So up here, the first thing you got to tell it is how many rows is your matrix and how many columns. If you got 2 variables, that's going to be a 2 enter by 3 enter. When I do 2 by 3, it makes enough boxes for my 6 numbers. Now, I'm going to put in each number and hit enter as I go. So I got 3 enter, 2 enter, 24 enter. Now I'm on the second row. I had a 2 for the X enter, a 3 for the Y enter, and a 26 for that answer enter. So once you put them all in, it'll sort of jump back up to the top left of that. But now we have our system of equations written as a matrix. So I'm going to quit the screen by hitting second and the mode button right to the right of it. So second mode, we quit that screen. All righty. Now the matrix is in there. Now we need to get the calculator to do some math on it. So what you want to do is hit second X -1 to get back into the matrix stuff. And see right now my number 1A is that 2 by 3 matrix we just put in. So to do math, we're going to go to the math column and we're going to arrow down until we get RREF. Now, y'all, A is REF. It'll reduce it, but it won't reduce it all the way like we want. RREF is reduced row form of the matrix, and it'll solve it all the way through. So highlight B, RREF, and hit enter. Now, it's going to reduce the matrix but we got to grab the matrix. So this will be the third time we go into the matrix. I'm going to hit second, x negative 1 to get my matrix again. And since I always use A and one's highlighted, I'm just going to hit enter, and that'll pull that matrix onto the main screen. Y'all, when I hit enter, the far right column will be the answers to this system. Are any of y'all doing it on the calculator as I'm going through? All right, so if you are, hit enter. And y'all see that 1 in the first column? That's where the x's are. So 1x equals 4. And in the second equation, the 1 is where the y is. And that means y equals 6. So the right column is the answers in alphabetical order. So in MATLAB for that, let's go back to the pad. So for that answer in MATLAB, we would put 4, 6. Did y'all get that? All right, good job. Y'all got that also. Okay, so the trick on it is just watching your numbers and making sure your signs are all right, okay? All right, y'all. So that was 2 variables. Now we're going to solve systems with 3 variables. So this one I'm going to explain as we go through an example because they're a little more tedious than 2 variables, okay? So let me get a good one here. So 3 variables means 3 equations. So I got x plus y plus z equals negative 11. 2x plus 5y plus 2z equals negative 37. And y'all, the last one is a negative x plus 6y minus 3z equals a negative 18. Now, so that y'all can keep up with what I'm doing, when I do 3 equations, I'm going to number them 1, 2, and 3. That way I can say what I'm doing as I'm going through, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to eliminate a variable twice by adding 2 of the 3 equations together. So I'm going to choose 2, eliminate a variable. Then whatever equation I didn't use, I got to use it with one of the other ones and eliminate that variable again. So we got to use all 3 equations at least once. Okay? So, um, y'all, it really don't matter what variable we pick. Do y'all see any that y'all might want to eliminate? So one does look a little easier than the other 2. So y'all, let me show you what I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to eliminate the x. So right off the bat, equation 1 has an x, equation 3 has a negative x. If I add them two together, I can eliminate the x. So I'm going to add my equation 1 and my equation 3. So equation 1 is x plus y plus z equal negative 11. Equation 3 was a negative x plus 6y minus 3z equaled negative 18. All right, so we're happy that x canceled. 1 plus 6 gave me 7y. 1 minus 3 gave me negative 2z. Negative 11, negative 18, give me negative 29. Alrighty, so I used 1 and 3 to get rid of the x. Now, I got to do that again, but we got to use the second row this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that second row. I'm going to change the third row and add to the second row. So if I want to change this third row this time, what do y'all think I'm going to multiply this whole row by? All right, I'm going to use a 2. Good job. Because y'all, the first row the second row is staying the same. So I'm going to add 2 and 3 after changing 3. So 2 is not changing. It's coming down. 2x plus 5y plus 2z equals negative 37. Now we're changing row 3 by distributing that 2 to all 4 parts. So 2 times negative 1 is a negative 2x. 2 times 6 gives me 12y. 2 times negative 3 gives me a negative 6z. And then 2 times negative 18 is a negative 36. All right, y'all, look at that. The x is canceled again like we needed. So 5 and 12 give me 17y. 2 minus 6 is a negative 4z. Negative 37, negative 36 give me a negative 73. So do y'all see that these two equations now have a y in them, a z in them, and then a number? So we put these two together to form our next system. So now we will treat this system like the one we did for the first 3 examples. We got to choose a variable in this one to eliminate. And y'all, I will say one of these variables definitely looks easier to eliminate than the other. Woo! I don't even know the smallest number 7 and 17 would go into. Sort of like finding the least common denominator on that one. But look at these z's. I got a negative 4 here. I can turn that negative 2 into a positive 4. So tell me, what could I multiply this first equation by to eliminate that z? Because remember, one of these got to be negative, one of these got to be positive. So 2, but it's going to be a negative 2, okay? Because remember, negative times negative will make that z positive, since this one here was negative, okay? So I'm going to change first equation by multiplying by 2. So negative 2 and 7 give me negative 14y. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4z. Negative 2 times negative 29 is a positive 58. So I just distributed that 2 through, negative 2. Now I didn't change this row, so let's bring it down. 17y minus 4z equal to negative 73. All right, y'all. So now by adding, those z's are going to cancel. Negative 14 and 17 gave me 3y. 58 minus 73 was a negative 15. We're now to the point where we can solve for our y. And y'all, to do that, we'll just divide both sides by 3. So that cancels, and I get y. Negative 15 divided by 3 is a negative 5. All righty. So from here, we're going to go to here and back substitute. So y'all check this out. I had to eliminate twice to get rid of the same variable. Now I got to back substitute twice to solve all 3 of these variables. Since I know what the y right here is, since I know what y is, I can plug in that y value into either one of these equations and solve for the z. So if you know one variable, you can plug it into the 2 unknowns and then solve for the other. So I'm just going to use this equation, I guess. Got a little bit smaller numbers. Now I know what y is, so I got 7 times negative 5 minus 2z is going to equal a negative 29. So let's solve this. 7 times negative 5 will be negative 35 minus 2z equal negative 29. I'm going to get that negative 2z by itself by adding 35. So y'all, those 35s are gone. That negative 2z now equals a positive 6. And y'all, at this point, I can solve for z by dividing both sides by negative 2. So that gives me a positive 1z equals negative 3. I now know what 2 of these variables equals. So I'm going to go up here and get this very first equation. It was x plus y plus z equal negative 11. Because I know the y and I know the z, I can now solve for the x. So, back substitute for the second time. So I'm going to use x plus y, which is negative 5, plus z, which is negative 3. All of that is going to equal that negative 11. So, y'all, this one's a little bit, I got like terms right there. So, I got my x, negative 5 and negative 3 give me negative 8. That's going to equal negative 11. And y'all, my last step, get the x by itself, add an 8 to both sides. So that this x, those 8's cancel. Negative 11 and 8 give me a negative 3. So I now know x is negative 3, y is negative 5, z is negative 3. These answers got to be written as an ordered triple. So that'll have your x, which is -3, your y, which is -5, and your z, which is -3. So by hand, eliminate the same variable twice. That's going to give you two equations with two variables. You're going to set them up as a system, eliminate one of those letters, and then finally solve for the remaining variable. So y'all, let's see this one on the calculator. Now remember, I won't be putting in X, Y's, and Z's. I'll just be putting in the numbers. And all of these with the three variables will be in the right order, okay? So you don't have to worry about rearranging any of these. So y'all, let's go do this one on the calculator. All right, so I'm going to clear everything off. All right, so we're going to hit second, x -1 to get into the matrix. We're going to go to edit. And once I highlight edit, I'm going to hit enter. So, how big is this system of equations? Because that one was 2 by 3. What y'all think this one is? And remember, it's rows by columns. So for three variables, you got to have three rows of equations. So that's going to be 3 inner. And then you got to have one more column than you do rows. Okay? So you're always going to have 4 columns. So once you put in the 3 by 4 and hit enter, it's going to make 12 boxes for us to put our numbers in. All right, y'all, we had 1x, so 1 enter, 1y, 1 enter, 1z enter, equaled -11. And enter. So there's my first row. Second row, I had 2 x's, so 2 enter, 5y would be 5 enter, 2z would be 2 enter, and then -37 for that answer, enter. All right, y'all, we're on the third row. We had a -x, so that'll be -1. Now make sure you use the negative down here in the parentheses and enter. I had 6y, so 6, enter. -3 for my z, and then that one equal to -18, and enter. All right, so all my numbers are in there. My cursor's back up on the top left because I got all these numbers in. So I'm going to do the same thing I did a while ago. I'm going to hit second mode and quit. Now, the only difference between the first problem I did and this one is this one just had more equations and more numbers. I'm going to solve it the same way. I'm going to go second, x -1 for the matrix stuff. I'm going to go highlight the math column because that's where we're getting the math operations. I'm going to arrow down and get RREF. So that's always B on mine. And hit enter. So now I brought RREF on. I'm going to hit second, x -1, and just hit enter since that's where I put my 3 by 4 at. All right, y'all, so that's going to bring up my matrix to be reduced. Now remember, once I hit enter, my 3 answers will be the far right column in alphabetical order from top to bottom. All right, y'all, so we better get like a -3, -5, and a -3. And that's what we got. See, the first one on the top left is in the X column. That's the -3. The second row, that one's where the Y is. That equals -5. And then, like I said, the bottom row, that one's in the z column, it equals -3. So I will say, you got to love that calculator, okay? All right, y'all. And also in your week 3 folder, there's a video using the calculator to solve the matrices if you need extra help on those. So I'm going to do another one by hand. All right, y'all. So let me try 3x plus 3y plus a z equals 19. X minus 3y plus 2z equaled -18. And then 8x minus 2y plus 3z equals 9. All right, so I'm going to call this 1 again. Equation 2 in equation 3. All righty, so I guess the question of the day, which one of these 3 variables do y'all want me to eliminate? And y'all can pick an X, Y, or Z. I don't care. But remember, I got to eliminate the same variable twice. So one of y'all just pick a letter and chat it to us. All right, Darren, we're going to eliminate the Y. All righty. Now, right off the bat, I got a 3y here and a -3y. So I'm going to eliminate y by adding 1 and 2 together first. So 3x plus 3y plus z equals 19. X minus 3y plus 2z equal -18. All right, so the y's did cancel. So let's see what's left. 3 and 1 give me 4 x's. 1 and 2 give me 3z. And then 19 minus 18 leaves me 1. All right, now we got to use this one this time. Now, since this is a -2, I'm going to use the third one and the first one. Okay, so I'm doing the first one and the third one this time because I got to use the third one no matter what. But y'all check this out. That's a 3 and that's a -2. I'm going to have to turn these into the same number, that one positive and that one negative. So the smallest number, 3 and 2, will both go into is 6. So I'm going to make this a +6 here and this a -6. So since that's a 3, I'm multiplying the first equation by 2. So I'm going to multiply first equation by 2. Okay? This third equation, since that's a -2, and I need that to be a -6, I'm going to multiply the third equation by 3. Okay, multiply. Third equation by 3. Then add them together. Okay, so we're adding 2 equations together, but this time we had no choice but to use that third one, okay? So let me multiply my first equation by 2. 2 times 3 is 6x. 2 times 3 is 6y. 2 times 1 is 2z. 2 times 19 is 38. Now the third equation by 3. 3 times 8 is 24x. 3 times negative 2 is a negative 6y. 3 times 3 is a 9z. That's going to equal 3 times 9, 27. All right, let's see what we got. 6 and 24 is 30x. Y'all, the y cancels. 2 plus 9 gives me 11z. And then 38 and 27 is 65. So I got x's and z's in the first equation, x's and z's in the second equation. So we're going to put them together. 4x plus 3z equals 1. 30x plus 11z equals 65. Alrighty. So y'all, we need to pick a variable to eliminate. So you got a big number sitting here. So I'm going to eliminate the z this time. Now, 11 and 3, the smallest number they both go into would be 33. Okay? So I'm going to have to change both rows. Now, I could have did 4 and 30. I think the smallest number they both go into would be 60. So you would have to multiply those by big numbers on that one. Now, that's a positive 3. I'm going to multiply by 11. 11 times 3 will make that a positive 33. Since this is positive 11, I'm going to multiply that row by negative 3. Okay? All right, y'all, so let's see what we get. 11 times 4 is 44x. 11 times 3 is 33z. 11 times 1 is 11. Second row, negative 3 times 30 is negative 90x. Negative 3 times 11 is a negative 33z. And then negative 3 times 65 is a negative 195. But y'all, by doing that, that positive 33z and that negative z, they cancel. So now I got 44 minus 90, which is negative 46x. And y'all, 11 minus 195 gives me a negative 184. All right, y'all, hopefully when we divide by that negative 46, I get a nice number out of that. So this will be the point where we solve for x. So negative 46x divided by that negative 46 will equal that negative 184 divided by negative 46. All right, so y'all divide that and see, does that give us a nice positive number? All right, also let me do that. 184. Okay, that equals 4. Oh, that's nice because 4 is a nice number. We're happy. So we know what x equals. So now we'll go up here and back substitute. So since I know x, I'm going to pick one of these two. So that was a lot smaller numbers. So I'm going to put that x of 4 right there. So that'll give me 4 times 4 plus 3z will equal 1. All right, y'all, 4 times 4 give me 16 plus 3z equals 1. I'm now going to subtract that 16 from both sides. All right, that cancels. So I now get 3z equals a negative 15. Can y'all solve for z by dividing by 3? And my z is now a negative 5. So x is 4. Z is negative 5. I'm going to go into my original equation up there and back substitute both of those. So, y'all, I'm just going to use that first one. 3 times x, which is 4, plus 3y, plus z, which is a negative 5. All those got to equal 19. All right, so what I'm going to do is multiply first. Now I'm going to add those like terms. So 12 and negative 5 give me 7 plus 3y equals 19. Subtract 7 both sides. 3y equals 12. All right, I'm going to move that up to here. Now divide both sides by 3. So that gives me a 1y equal to a positive 4. So my little system would be 4 for the x, 4 for the y, and then where'd my z go? Right here's my z, negative 5. So did any of y'all do that one on the calculator while we worked it? All righty, y'all. So I'm going to test y'all on the calculator again on a system of 3 variables and see what y'all get. So this will be just to check y'all out on the calculator, okay? All right, so on the calculator, let's figure this one out. Oh, 9x minus y plus z equals 29. 2x plus 2y minus 3z equals 5. 1x minus 3y plus 2z equals 12. All righty. So let y'all write them down, and then we're going to knock this out on our calculators, okay? So I'll give y'all a minute or two to. All right, I got an answer coming in 3, -5, and 3. So, y'all, let's punch that on our calculator and see what we get. So I'm going to share my calculator. All right, y'all, clear everything off. All right, so second x-1 matrix, go to edit and enter. All right, so it's 3 by 4 still. So 3 enter, 4 enter. All right, so let me get them in. You had a 9, -1, 1. But Caleb, I like your answer because you got nice integers. And usually if you mess up, you'd get decimals or something ugly. So let's see. 2 enter, 2 enter, -3 enter, 5 enter. All right, then 1 enter, -3 enter, 2 enter, and 12 enter. All right, so then you hit second quit. Now you went into matrix again to get to math, and you went down to RREF, enter, and then second, x-1, and enter. All right, so let's see. 3, -5, and 3. 3, -5. Oh, you must have lost your negative on there. Did yours show a negative? 3 on the last? Okay, yeah. So that last number was negative. So, oh, yeah, also we had 3, -5, -3. All right, y'all. So next class will be doing the same thing, except we're going to sort of start out with word problems on that. So I'm wanting to see something real quick. So 3, 5 didn't really have support for it. So I'm just looking at see what 3, 6 had. All right, y'all. So let me get back on Zoom with y'all. All right. I'm going to share my screen for 3, 6 support. And y'all, we'll just answer these together. So number 1, you're going to change this phrase into an algebraic expression. It tells you to use x as the variable. A, B, C, D, a number increased by 9. So let me see my one new one. D, perfect, right? We don't know the number x, but increased by means adding. So we're sort of getting ready for those word problems coming up Wednesday, okay? All right, so then our next question. A number increased by 15. A, B, C, D. All right, so y'all going B on that one. Good job. Looks like mine's stuck on increased by. All right, y'all, let's see what we do here. 22 more than twice the number. So A, B, C, or D. 22 more than twice the number. All right, so Dan got a D. D looks good, y'all. Twice the number would be 2x. 22 more than would be plus 22. So good job. All right, so this support not too bad, okay? So this one says translate to an algebraic expression. 2 more than B. So what y'all put in there? And we're using B as the variable. So B plus 2, good job. So B plus 2. So then you're going to check that one. All right, this might be the only one we got to do a little work on. So the sum of two numbers is 8. So I'm just writing what they're giving me. 4 times the larger number plus 3 times the smaller number is 45. Find the numbers. Okay, so I got that wrote down. So let me show you what you're going to do to this one. So you're going to come up with 2 equations, and then you're going to solve them equations for each variable. Now, it's talking about a larger number and a smaller number. So I'm going to let x equal my larger number in this column. Then I'll have my smaller number in this column, and then that'll equal those answers. So this one says the sum of two numbers is 8. So what equation could you write knowing that? Because y'all, that's what y'all got to give me is my 2 equations before we can solve anything. Well, Jahan, don't solve it for the numbers yet. You don't know the 2 numbers. So what you would want to do to that, since you don't know the numbers, x plus y equals 8. So at the moment, we got to use variables for these, okay? Now look here. X's are my larger number, Y's are my smaller number. This says 4 times the larger number. Well, 4 times the larger number will be 4x plus 3 times the smaller number. That's going to be plus 3y. Those two together equal 45. So remember, is your equals on these. The sum means you're adding. 4 times, use multiplying. And then plus here meant add. And then 3 times again meant multiply. Come on. Guess what? We got to eliminate one of these variables. So do y'all want to eliminate the x or the y? No matter which one y'all pick, we got to change one of these rows, okay? So let me see an x or a y from y'all. All right. All right. X was first. So since x was first, I'm going to eliminate the x. But y'all, that's a 4x. What would y'all multiply this first equation by if y'all want to get rid of them x's? -4, perfect. All right, so we're going to distribute our -4 through. So I get -4x, -4y equals a -32. That equation we're leaving the same. All right, y'all, so good job. The x's are gone. Negative 4 and 3 give me negative 1y. Negative 32 and 45, that's basically 13. But y'all remember, I can't leave the y negative, so I need to divide both sides by negative 1, so that a positive y equals a negative 13. All right, so I know what y is. So now I'm going to back substitute into that first equation. So y'all, this is basically like those first few problems we did earlier, except now you have to make the equations yourself for this support, okay? All right, so I'm just going to use x plus y equals 8. X I don't know. Y is a negative 13. That's going to equal 8. All right, y'all, so final step, add 13 to both sides. So those 13s cancel, and I get x equals 21. So I get 21. Oh, this one we don't have to put in. I'll show you how you got to do this one, okay? But x is my larger number, it's positive, and y is my smaller number being negative. So once you've solved it, see right here, they want the larger number. What did we say? 21. And then the smaller number was a negative 13. So you would put that in and then check your answer. So no, that's your trick on those support. That's just getting you ready for Wednesday. Now, Wednesday will have word problems, but they'll deal with 3 variables, okay? So support, you had 2 variables. Whoo, yeah. 3.6 will be 3 variables, okay? All righty, y'all. So let me stop my share real quick. I mean, my record.